Hey guys, today we're going to be doing an in-depth how-to video on how to install a head unit. Today we're going to be working on a 2000 Honda CR-V, so it's a very basic vehicle, no modules or anything involved in this install. In today's video we're going to take you step by step for the head unit installation on how a professional shop does it. So before we start the job, we're going to check My Shop Assist, where we schedule everything and we see what our tasks are. So today we have listed for the CR-V, we're going to be doing a head unit installation. Now before performing any work on the vehicle, we're going to do our vehicle check-in. So we're going to check all operation of all the basic features of the vehicle to make sure that they work. So after doing our vehicle check-in, everything checked out except for the front passenger door. The door lock doesn't work properly, so we're just going to mark it off in our notes. And save it and it'll be ready to print out for our work order. For our head unit installation today, we're going to be using Alpine Electronics CDE 143BT. The 143BT is an excellent head unit for anyone looking for more sound quality and getting more functionality out of their deck. On the front you can see very easy to use controls, all your presets down here, all your other controls over here on the left. On the front we also have USB and auxiliary. On the rear of the deck, you can see we have two pre-outs. So this is a good deck if you want to add a 4-channel or a monoblock. If you're going to be doing an installation which includes a 4-channel and a monoblock, I would look for a head unit that has 3 pre-outs instead. Also, you see here we have a hookup for remote steering wheel controls if the vehicle is equipped and you buy the additional module. And it also does Bluetooth. Here's our microphone input. Now, before we begin with vehicle disassembly, we're going to start with disconnecting the negative terminal at the battery. Main reason we want to do this is because we're taking apart stuff on a vehicle and we're unplugging things, we don't want to have the off chance of setting off a light of some sort or shorting out any circuits. Keep in mind, when you disconnect batteries, sometimes you might trip off some security features in the particular vehicle you're working on. So please double check with your owner's manual. Also, by taking out the negative terminal, we're double checking and we're making sure we're inspecting the battery, making sure that all the connections were initially tight. So keep in mind, this how-to video is quite above and beyond the typical do-it-yourself video. The reason being is we're going to be using tools that the typical do-it-yourselfer might not have. Start off, we're going to have a soldering iron from Weller. You're going to need a wrench set for disassembly of some of the 8 mils. Screwdrivers, these ones are from Snap-on. Wire strippers, crimpers, flush cuts, and also specialized pry tools to take apart the dash quickly and not damage anything. We're also going to be using shrink tube and Tessa tape. In some applications we're going to use high-end vinyl electrical tape and good butt connectors, but in this application we're going to be doing soldering only. So looking at this bench, you're looking about almost $300 worth in tools. In order to do any head unit install, we have to get the factory head unit out. So in this particular vehicle we actually have to start on the lower part of the dash and disassemble it to access the center. Next, we have to drop the glove box. If you want to be real nice to your local install shop, empty out your belongings before you work on the vehicle. This now gives us access to these fasteners over here on the center portion of the dash, so we can now remove this portion. So there's fasteners on the center. This one's missing here. And on the other side, we can access it as well. Down low, we have another cover that we have to access, and it's just held in by push pins. So here we're going to use another specialty pry tool to put this thing out. Now giving us access to the rest of the Phillips. Now we've almost got the centerpiece released. We just have to open up this little cargo compartment here and release 4 more Phillips screws. And I'm putting all my fasteners just in the cup holder to keep organized. You can do that or use a magnet tray. Just don't lose them. Now at this point, we're now ready to release the entire lower portion of the center part of the dash to access the rest of the fasteners that hold in the head unit. On this vehicle, there are 2 8mm that are holding the head unit in. There's one on this side, which I've already taken out. Now I just have to release the one on the left side. So it took all this work to access 2 of these little guys to remove the factory head unit out. With the factory head unit removed, we can now inspect all the wiring to make sure nothing's damaged, and we can also verify what type of aftermarket harness we need to plug in to the factory harness that plugged into the factory head unit before. Also part of this installation, I'm going to be removing the bezel around the gauge cluster to install our Bluetooth mic. There are 2 options. You can either put it in the gauge cluster so it's directly in front of the driver, so when they're speaking, the other person on the other side can hear them clearly, or we can also put it up high on the headliner near the mirror. So here are my 2 harnesses. This is the one that came with the Alpine head unit, and this is the aftermarket one. This one's from Best Kits. We prefer to use harnesses like this that only have one aftermarket connector on it. There are some manufacturers out there that have it for different generations of the particular make of the vehicle, but we care about how it looks, and it's just going to look a lot more uniform if we use a harness like this. So we'll start off with our power wires that turn on the deck first. Now Now the reason why I have this other one is because the power wires on the Alpine are a little bit thicker, so just in case this 1/8 inch shrink tube doesn't fit on top, I'd have this as a backup. But here you can see it just went over nicely. So we're just going to use them both anyways. Twisting it to make sure that there's no burrs sticking out, because when I solder it's going to be really stiff and it could poke through an insulator and cause a short. Accessory wire. This tells the head unit to turn off and on with you. And then illumination. Check your owner's manual which wire you have to hook up here, because on some harnesses there might be more than one orange wire. What this wire does is at night, or anytime you turn on the headlights, this will dim the display on the head unit so it's not so bright. Here we're going to hook up the antenna wire. This is for vehicles that have power antennas, this one doesn't, or amplified antennas. The blue and white wire is for an amp turn-on wire. The vehicle does not have an amplifier, so we're not going to hook that up. And then we move on to our speaker wires. Right now I'm hooking up the front left. So you're going to continue this process until you've finished everything else. So we've completed our connections and we're almost done this section of the installation, but now we have to finish it off and hold everything together. Everything was cut to length initially, soldered together, it's nice and strong, but it still can get kind of messy, so we have to tie the wires together. Now we can either use zap straps or zip ties and harness them all together, or in this case we're going to use Testa tape. So I come along, wrap it. So tying together much like how a European vehicle like a BMW ties all their wires together. With the harness now complete, we can go ahead and plug it in. Next, we have to remove the head unit from this bezel over here. There's 4 of these 8mm bolts holding it in on the sides, and once you remove them, you just pull it right out. Now, in order to fit in the single-DIN head unit into this opening, you're going to need a mounting kit of some sort. This one's from Metro. Now, you can see here it's a universal design, so you have a bunch of tabs. So we have to remove a bunch of them and use the right ones for this particular application. Read your owner's manual. Once you're left with all the appropriate tabs, we can go ahead and just click it right in. At this point, we can now begin reassembly. So we're going to take our factory plugs, plug them back in for our HVAC controls. I've gone ahead and secured the Bluetooth mic wire to the factory harness so you'll never lose it if you ever have to service it. And we're going to string the harness and the antenna through the mounting kit, click everything in, then we can go ahead and install our fasteners on either side of the housing. Now with the mounting kit all secured, you're ready to put in the sleeve or the cage for the head unit. Now on the Alpines, they have these self-locking fingers or tabs, so you could just place the sleeve in, put in the deck, and then it will lock in. But we're just going to make sure that these little triangles here, we're going to push those up as well. To install our Bluetooth mic, we're going to make sure we plug into the Bluetooth plug port, not the steering wheel controls. Main harness, and finally the antenna. Now we're only going to put the head unit in part way because we want to test it before we actually click it in. At this point, with everything plugged in, we're ready to hook up the battery again. Before we do so, we're just going to clean off this terminal since we've taken off anyways. We're now ready to power up the Alpine. So we got white noise, that's great. So now we can go ahead and check all the speakers. After we've checked all the speakers for operation, we can go ahead and click the deck in. Now that we've tested and verified everything, we can go ahead and put the vehicle back together. To recap the installation, you can see here I put the Bluetooth mic, clipped it up, and I ran the wire around the clip. That way it's tucked out of the way, just so it has a nice look to it. And just aim it at the user. Here's our CDE 143 from Alpine. So all your preset controls, track back and forth. You can see the antenna is working properly because it is seeking and stopping at stations where it has reception. To take the faceplate off, we're going to hit this bottom left-hand button here. It comes off. Now the Alpines do come with a case on certain models. I would suggest that you use the case to protect the faceplate, that way it doesn't get damaged over time. But this way, with the faceplate out, it's less likely a thief is ever going to want to enter the vehicle because this unit's useless without the faceplate on it. So to finish off the installation, we always give back the old parts that we took out, unless the customer asks us to dispose it for him. Work order detailing everything that we've done to the vehicle, things that are optional, and anything that we found in the vehicle that's amiss. And then I'd like to add in the pamphlet describing everything that we do, or most things we do, because we do so much more than just stereos. There's a lot to our service, and we attach a business card so you have someone in contact in the installation bay.